the review, the look back of 2024 last episode, and it, inevitably kind of makes you think, well, what I'm going to do this for the next year. It's a milestone, isn't it?
Happy New Year and welcome back to another episode of the Sketch Wave, the first of 2025. My name is Joel, otherwise known as JoelCreate, and my co-host, as always, is the one and only James Julier. I nearly forgot the intro. We're just recovering from New Year's and the big party that we've had. We're definitely not recording this in advance. So yes, we have a little conversation today, being the first one of 2025. We want to just have a little chat about maybe what we've got sort of in our minds for the year, whether it be, whether it be our YouTube channels, whether it be Patreon, just goals and objectives for the year, and it could be even in our personal lives as well. So, James, why don't you get us started with this point of, about maybe a discussion point that you've got for 25 lined up.
So, yeah, I mean, I've been obviously we did the review, the look back of 2024 last episode, and it, inevitably kind of makes you think, well, what I'm going to do this for the next year. It's a milestone, isn't it? I absolutely intend to. It's not going to be a revolution of what I do on the channel. I think that content-wise, I do plan on continuing the progress towards more structural elements. I've just done a couple of tutorials in the run-up to Christmas that was more kind of character design, the kind of melting snowman and a cute kind of star thing as well. And I was only sort of dipping my toe in the water of character design stuff. But now it's kind of opened the doorway a little bit, and I liked it. I think I'll always head towards the kind of realism and a photographic quality, at least, to it, in terms of something that at least has a nod toward realism. So it may be a cute cartoony character that has almost like a 3D believability about it, really. But it might be something that I pursue a little bit more. I'm still obviously going to do the traditional kind of landscape stuff. But I like just pushing the same subject matter into different new territories. So it might be new, exaggerated, saturated color palettes like we discussed last time, character design, and structural elements. And there's loads to do within structural elements. I've done sort of cabins, and I've done a haunted house once. I've done a couple of houses, I suppose. But it would be nice to. I'd like to summon up the courage to do some sort of night cityscape, but we'll see.
Okay.
I've got the ambition to do it. I think once I start down that path, it will snowball into something, and I'll want to do more and more of it. But I'm just trying to find something that would be simple enough as a starting point on that aesthetic, really.
That's really interesting, though, because we had that conversation, didn't we, about things that we avoid drawing. And I wonder whether it's that kind of acknowledgement, because I think one of the points which I'll bring up shortly, but it's a similar, one of the concepts we spoke about is integrating in new pieces of design into our work. I wonder if it does something to your mentor in the background of just being like, let's tackle this now. It would be really interesting to see, though, how you go about tackling like a city landscape, because I guess there's lots of things in there that you'd have to tackle that would be very different to our landscapes. Well, I say our landscapes, the landscapes you traditionally do, like, on the channel normally. Yeah,
there would. And I don't honestly know how I would really go about it. It's just something that, I don't like to be defeated by things. I think I like the idea that, I could tackle almost any subject matter. I've done an eye. I haven't done the whole face. I won't be doing portraiture as such, but I do like to do environments. I like to do spaces. I like to do places. So the idea that I've just written off cityscapes or buildings and places that include structural elements, I've started down that path. So I was thinking, well, surely there'll be a way that I can figure out how to do that is teachable as well. So that the plan is to eventually get to the point where the structural I can teach structural things in a way that also lends itself to a really busy kind of scene as well, is the plan.
Yeah. And I think you said in that episode that it would be like a Tron style kind of design. So would it be like futuristic? Or
not so much Tron, more Blade Runner in terms of
Blade Runner,
yeah, maybe like at night, so like a misty night kind of cityscape with some neon lights and things like that. So yeah, not quite Tron, but more Blade Runner, but not necessarily futuristic. But there's plenty of cityscapes that are current, I think, that have that vibe to them anyway. I'm sure. But I don't know. I just have to do some research, find some anime examples, perhaps, and find something that kind of fits that aesthetic. And see, will have to be more stylized rather than photographic. I think initially, I think it would work better. I think in without knowing how, because the thing is with natural things that don't have structure, you can rely upon texture and lighting and color to recreate a realism. But if you're going for super realistic on structural elements, then that's another level of requirement, isn't it? So
it can help you ease into it, can't it?
Yeah, if it's a bit more stylized, then that might be the route and the way to go. But yeah, in terms of the content, I think they're the kind of changes that I'm thinking. How about yourself? Have you got any kind of content related things you want to tackle for the...
Well, it's funny in terms of integrating into our tutorials. It's funny because, again, another element that we spoke about that we don't draw typically is people. And it's, when we grabbed the designs for our top 3 tutorials of 2024 that we did in a previous episode, in there I realized I did a fisherman at one point, and it was the way I did it. I refer to them as blankets, like those things that you can do to make maybe a design easier. And just the subtle fact he had a hat and a beard on just avoided having to draw certain elements that you don't need to. And it was, he was facing away from us as well. And so for me, integrating subjects, I think, because sometimes I can look at some of my work and think it's missing something, like even a character, because there's so many amazing digital artists I can think of on like YouTube and Instagram that I follow, and they'll put a character in there, but the character is tiny.
Yeah.
And then you think, wow, this world that I thought looked a certain way doesn't look that way, actually. The scale of it now is enormous. It would be like a tree that was like, let's say it had fallen over in a forest, and you look at it initially and think, it's just a normal tree. But the scale of the person makes it look as if this tree was like 10,000 years old. It was huge, the scale of it. And I just think that adds that extra element of being like, okay, now the whole vibe of this has changed. It's now like a bit fantasy-esque because the scale of things are slightly bigger than they should be, or whatever it may be. So I think I'm going to work on a way that I'm happy to do it. And I think there's a little bit of pressure maybe from people in my mind of making it be a certain way, like maybe drawing things completely from scratch is what people want to see all the time. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think what I'm going to do over the kind of Christmas break and in my spare time is build up a brush stamp collection, and bear with me on that concept, because it wouldn't necessarily just be all the work done in a stamp and you just pop it in on each design. That's not what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for sketch like designs of the figures, the face, and all those sketch lines that you keep for the line down the face and etc., and the circular shape for the shoulder and all that kind of stuff, and the line work of it to show the general frame. That's what I think I might go for, is draw out a bunch of frames of people that I can then clothe, essentially, like layer the color on and use that kind of as a guide. I'm not saying I'm going to put like people in absolutely everything, but I think if I had that kind of concept, I'm more comfortable with that. I think some people think that potentially because you can do what you do, you can also tackle everything else. So we spoke about this many times in that episode of that drawing people alone is like a whole thing that you just have to tackle, and it's a monster of a project.
Definitely.
To learn how to do, and you need to be doing it consistently. So for me, all I want to do is add that character, that avatar into my tutorials. I think going forward, that it's in a way that I'm comfortable with. I don't want to just do like a stamp, that's it kind of vibe. I want to, I'll happily stamp the structure of it and the kind of idea of it, and then it's up to you to sort of go about adding in the elements on top. And I think again they would probably be very small scale. people walking, people running maybe, or any kind of angles I can think of that would look really cool. And I think that's where I'm going to go for. And I'll happily build up that collection, I think, and just provide it as a free asset on my website potentially. And then just, if I add a new character to it, I just keep adding more and more to it and go from there, really. So yeah, I think that's where I want to take the content, I think.
Mm-hmm. How about the channel in general? Is there any, do you just plan to keep going and evolve it and grow it? Or is it just a general sense, or is there any specific things?
I think once you start YouTube and it becomes part of your life, the thought of not doing it anymore is harder than continuing it. Like stopping doing it, I think would be harder than carrying it on. That last week I was so ill recording an episode, a tutorial, but I just did it. I got on with it because I had to. And I'm super happy with the design still. It wasn't like it was compromised in any way. If anything, it was like 2.5 times longer than what it would normally be. Like 2 hours plus a tutorial, and I just cracked on with it. And the thought of not doing that. So 2025 is just about head down again, keep working, keep going towards, I don't want to set a goal of like, 100K and all that kind of stuff, because for me, I'm fully aware that I'll hit that milestone as and when, and it won't make any difference to the day before or the day or tomorrow. They're not going to be two different worlds. I still live in the same world. You still have to carry on. So for me, I'm more than happy understanding my objective, which is just to keep going. My goal is to make sure I'm still releasing a weekly tutorial on YouTube every single week. I think content-wise, there will be a little bit of extra content around the sites. I think I'm going to try and do some like shorts stuff.
Okay.
25.
Yeah.
And like whether it be any kind of concept, I've got a few ideas that are not really flushed out yet fully, but just I want to. My goal probably, I think, would to be, and I don't like setting this number because I did it previously on my second channel, but it's like aim to do maybe like 30 to 50 shorts next year or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And just to see how it goes.
Every week or two. Yeah.
Yeah, and not put the pressure on myself. No. I remember on my second channel, I went into it and be like, no, it's a weekly tutorial every single time on the second channel. And I burnt out. Like I was teetering so close on it, and I was like, I just have to stop. Like I know it's, even though it's going well, I can't keep up. So I will not put that pressure on myself to do it. If a week goes past and a short doesn't go up, I'm not interested. So yeah, I think that's kind of really the difference. I think also I'd really like to just randomly do a couple of live streams next year. When I say a couple, I mean like a handful of them on the channel again, and just connect with the community again, which in that way, it's so fun to do in that way. And I think maybe a couple more of those. What about you for the channel? Like any new kind of things you think you've got that you want to try and do, or what's the sort of thoughts?
I think 25? Live streams. We've discussed this before, haven't we? I really want to embrace the idea of live stream stuff, and with no particular objective with them other than here's me. I'm available to chat, and I'm going to be drawing at the same time. And it may evolve into fully fledged, just like Miko does. Like kind of it just happens. I mean, that's the way I work typically when it's just my personal projects, and it's so opposite to the way that we have to do tutorials. The tutorials have an end goal in mind, and we have to structure it and create steps in order to get to that end goal. But when I'm doing my own work, I just get started, and it evolves, and it becomes a thing on its own. So I'd love to be able to just do that with company almost, really. It's such a solitary thing, and that's the stuff that we talked the last episode about being proud of your work, really. And the stuff that I'm most proud of is the stuff that I do outside of the channel and just do for my own entertainment. And so it would be lovely to be able to showcase some of that a little bit. And I realize it's a bit more idiosyncratic and very personal to me, and very much my taste, and it may not be as universally welcomed as some of my kind of standard landscapes and those kind of aesthetics. But I think for the people that perhaps just want to pursue their own creative art styles and stuff, I think it'd be quite interesting to see how, me or an artist actually sort of like works that way, really, and engage with them in the process. I know that some of my favorite artists, and if I could have really seen their process and interacted with them even and seen them drawing live, and it would have been amazing, and I know there's people out there that probably do rate us in those kind of regards, and I tend to be a little bit more, it's all, or I tend to downplay what we do a little bit, but the impact that we have, I think, is pretty large on some people. I'm sure that there are people that have been really inspired, really influenced, and do hold us in high regard in terms of artists that they look up to, and I tend to diminish what I do in terms of my artistic presence, and I say, well, I'm just a teacher, I'm not on YouTube, and the art side of is just the subject that I happen to be teaching, because and separate the two, and think of my own art as being what I do off camera. But some people won't necessarily see it that way, and so it might just be eye-opening for them to be able to see what I do when it isn't a structured lesson, and have some insight into that process, really. Because it is a process.
Yeah, just chill with you as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just have that chat and have that interaction, I think, will be really lovely. Yeah,
I think it's so underrated. It is a lot of work, to be fair. Like to make sure it's like regular, and people, it
wouldn't necessarily.
They're completely right in expecting it to be regular, but
that's
the tough thing, is making sure it fits into schedules and so on. But I think having a live stream, if you're happily prepared for it, then I think it's great to do, in terms of like, if there's an evening spare at a certain point, then there's an option and a opportunity to do so. For example, tomorrow, I think I've got a chance in the evening of me actually managing to probably do it.
Yeah.
And so that could be a thing that I do.
It used to be Wednesdays, didn't it? When you did it regularly, it was Wednesdays.
Yeah, I think it was Wednesdays. Yeah. It's just a lot of time. I juggle quite a lot of projects anyway. But I think it would be awesome for you to do that. I think that's where I equally with the shorts kind of thing. It's just, I think next year I really want to try to also just be completely open to be like, yeah, I'm going to just do this type of medium. Fine. Let's try it. See what happens. See if I enjoy it. See if it's really fun to do. It could even be, it would have to be related to what we do, but hypothetically, if, let's say Procreate have an event in London again. Let's just use that as a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Creating a vlog for that would be sick. I think, like a vlog behind the scenes. Again, they get to, our community get to hang out with us for a video and go to an event with us in that kind of space. That kind of thing.
We'll have to meet up, Joel.
To do.
If it has an event in London, we'll have to.
That would be cool.
Meet up, won't we? And we'll do kind of like an in-person kind of live.
That would be cool.
Something. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I think it could all go as well. Like, 'cause when you say that, that's awesome, because I was thinking exactly the same thing. I'd be like, we could do that and record an episode somewhere as well, like an in-person episode and all that kind of stuff. Like, it would be so cool, and then see who else we've spoken to on the show at these events. I remember at the previous year, the one they did in London, and it was I remember Miko Flo mentioned that she met Miko there as well in some of our conversations. We spoke to her, and it would be so cool to actually like be in the presence of these people that you see so often. And if you reel that back a little bit, it's the same thing, I guess, for the live streams. It's like awesome to just hang out with your favorite creator, whatever they're doing, and just, especially if they're drawing something that you've never seen. I think as long as people are aware, like, this isn't the tutorial, like I said before, don't go grabbing your iPads, it's fine, we'll just draw along. If you like the content, let us know in the comments, kind of thing, and all that kind of everything that goes into the live streams. I think it'd be awesome. And I think this show, for example, is a good example of, like I said, about diving into a completely different medium, doing something completely different. I think I want to just completely openly explore all of those ideas and just see where they go next year. So for your channel, then the goal you mentioned is just like, progress the style, I guess, more so is the main focus, really.
that's a constant, is to try to create more and more, not just more content, but better content. It's always the objective is to get better at what we do. It's got to be, just like in the art field, it's all about learning. It's about growing, and as much as we teaching, we're learning too while we do it, aren't we? So we're learning to become better artists, to become more efficient at achieving results. So yeah, I'm hopefully that the videos, the images will get, and it's a balance, because we've discussed this when we was referring back to other episodes, but it's true when we spoke to Flo, and there's a balance, isn't there? You don't want to create an image that looks so complex that it puts people off. But also you want to wow the people. You want people to be wowed by what they can do following a tutorial, but you don't necessarily want to make it so complex looking that it really stops them from even getting started. So, but even so, I just generally head in that direction. I think that I'd rather create something that looked really complex, no matter if it puts people off, because I think it's about checks and balances. There's going to be some people that haven't encountered us before that see our thumbnails or videos and they click on it for a moment and go, oh, I can't do that, and then never bother trying. But equally, there's people that are stuck with us for years and who need developing and need progressing through, just along with us, and they don't want to retread the same skill level and things that they've already done with us for the last couple of years. So I think it's right that we continue to try to get better and better, and sometimes the complexity of the image isn't necessarily a sign that it's super difficult to do, and it's for us that our learning curve is finding ways to make it look more complicated, but finding it easier to teach and to execute. So yeah, I think more of the same, but hopefully it'll continue to improve, I think, is the plan. Yeah,
and that just comes with experience, doesn't it? Like every single time we try something different, we learn, okay, that's the process. And then the second time you do it, you realize I could probably simplify these 2 steps actually. Third time you simplify them more. And it's just like with the buildings that you were doing in your tutorials, they take time to understand how you would go about breaking them down. And then, okay, I can get speedier with this. I can easily fly through this next time. And it makes it so much easier for people to understand, because you're then simplifying the process. And if they got it the first time, they'll definitely be able to get it the 5th or 4th time that you revisit that kind of subject matter, which is cool. I think also we've realized that we've also got this channel as well as an additional channel to focus on as well, to provide some goals for. What goals do you have for the channel? Like what would you like to see the channel do? The Sketchwave,
I think more almost tutorial type episodes where they're not full on necessarily, but we've spoken about doing little challenges, perhaps where we can demo things a little bit more, and I really love the content that we're doing, but I think there's even more of an avenue to blur the line between what we do in our tutorials and these episodes too, and just somehow kind of bridge that gap a little bit more than we have currently. I really like the extra kind of tangents, the discussions with other people and have guests on here, and obviously our different topics. But I think it'd be really useful for people to come to us with even more depth on the tutorial side of things, because obviously we discuss it and we analyze and we break down what we feel works, and we give a little bit of background insight there too. But it would be in a real fundamental, practical way to discuss some of the foundational kind of knowledge around landscapes would be useful, I think.
Yeah, awesome. I think for me, my favorite episodes are the guests, because I just love hearing people's stories. I love sitting down with people and just understanding their background and how they got into it, and all the different niches of art as well. There's so many, and I think we could easily in the years spread out slightly beyond the Procreate world into the Photoshop artists of the world.
And,
the concepts still apply. It's just all of the different stories that we can,
because it almost doesn't matter uncover. Really. When we have guests, we don't overly talk about Procreate, do we? We talk about the art and the motivation and those aspects, so it's irrelevant almost, isn't it? It could be traditional artists just as much as it could be digital artists as well, couldn't
Absolutely.
it, really?
That's a really good point. Yeah. definitely. I mean, we've got a guest on soon who blends the worlds of watercolor from traditional into Procreate as well, and I think that's a really interesting like avenue and sort of little sort of niche within our space that we can look at and really explore a lot more. And I think they're the ones to me that I just think are really fun. And but at the same time, like I totally agree. I think there's so much we can do with the show and so much where we could take it and expand the content, change it slightly. The discussions are great, but like you said, I think you could also be a little bit more informative, like you say, breaking down a particular element. I think the best thing that we can do is to answer what people want. If you're watching this and there's a particular thing that you would like us to do, you can leave us a comment. We love replying to the comments, getting people's comments on the show and replying to them. And there's also a form in the description as well down below for people to leave us a question. You can leave it anonymously as well if you'd like to, so that you can just submit a question and we're more than happy to answer anything you've got. And it could be based on the subject matter. For example, you said there, didn't you, about like, maybe it's a particular part of a tutorial and say like, James, can you explain why did you go about this, or how did you go about getting the concept together for this part of the tutorial and so on. And I think, there's definitely really cool ideas that we could break it down. I love the idea of the kind of collaborative kind of ideas of the tutorials that we've spoken about before, like fun games kind of thing that we can do on the show for sure. I mean, who can you think of a guest that you'd want to get on the show? Is there anybody that comes to mind straight off the bat?
No, not straight off the bat, but
to be fair, I've put you on the spot. We didn't really rehearse that kind of question. Okay, well, I can answer it on my behalf. Philip Shue is someone I really want to get on the show. I remember doing a course of his back in the day, and he's worked with huge companies in his artwork, and he's also does like, he can do these designs that are slightly like so really beautiful fantasy landscapes, very bold colors as well, but then sometimes he'll like do like a Pokemon style integration in there as well and use them as kind of subject matter, and it's really cool to see. And you could easily imagine it being in one of the games as well, which is awesome. So I'd love to have him on the show. When I think of where we'll be, because obviously the show started, I think it was in April, May time. It was. Yeah. So we're not even a year in. So I think by the time we've got a year's catalogue, I think I'll be most proud of the fact we actually carried on. I think most people start podcasts, and I think the statistic is they'll do 20 episodes and stop, which for us, this is going to be episode 35. So we are flying through it. So I think that's a really good achievement to keep making sure that we carry on with it on a weekly basis. And
I think for us, this show
around our lives.
It's been, it's an extra few hours in the week, but also it's good for our motivation personally, I think, to touch base with each other, isn't it? And just sort of catch up, because it is a lonely space almost, isn't it? As much as we have our community to talk to, other than that, it's us in a dark room, isn't it, with our iPad and, talking a lot. Yeah. And, it's a little bit strange, isn't it, really, compared to most work environments. I know you've got your other job as well and other commitments, but, this side of it is a little bit isolated, isn't it? So it's quite nice to have people that we can talk about and, talk about the boring behind the scenes kind of, we talk a few times about, every time we upload a video, it ranks it. For example, if it's doing really well, it'll put it at the top of the last 10 videos. So it's a 1 out of 10. If it's done really poorly, then it'll be 10 out of 10. That's bad. And nobody understands that unless they're a content creator. You can tell it to your other halves and they understand because you've told them, but they don't really understand the emotion that goes into that in the same way as another creator. So it's been useful and really nice to just keep the main content bobbing along as well, and just to have someone that's going to give you feedback and interact on your actual work aside from the audience, as much as the audience. And this is part of the thing, is the audience is names, and it's, you might get familiar with some of the names and you think, oh, that person comments regularly, and you feel like there is a little bit of a dynamic there, a relationship, but for the largest part, they're kind of quite anonymous, aren't they? The audience, and we have we have audiences that interact with us, but it feels quite removed and a little bit more distant, whereas it's quite nice to have someone to actually to talk to in this space. Oh, I'm not that lonely really, but it makes it sound very bad, but but no, it's fine. But it's nice, it's an extra thing that wasn't there before that is now.
Yeah. Oh no, I get a lot out of it as well from especially even just the breakdowns of our content as well. It's really interesting to have a breakdown of it, and I think whether or not I am aware of it or not, I think there's loads of things that have gone in through the breakdowns of our content and stuff in these shows that maybe subliminally pop up in work, and just the understanding of certain things. I can reflect back to one in particular where we broke down an image and grabbed a palette from it. And I think in that actual one you mentioned, well, I would normally go, and this is what you were saying to a degree, is that you say, oh, I would normally go even brighter than that, because then that's the brightest value, and then I'd go even darker than that, and then use the soft airbrush in between at like a lower opacity to get everything in between. But they're your highest and that's your lowest. And then I was like, he makes a lot of sense, that James. And I was like, I'll do that. I'll do that next time. And then I realize in palettes now I will drag highs a bit higher and shadows a bit lower, and then low halves are sort of kind of lay in between. So yeah, I completely agree with everything you say. YouTube's a weird space for a lot of people, and I don't think most people understand it unless you're in it. But it's really fun, and it's been great also then to talk to other creators. I remember when we had Miko on the show, so inquisitive about everything we do and everything like that, and it's just great, and we can geek out completely about the whole world of it all, and what microphones we use and everything like that goes into it, that a lot of people love to chatter about. I just had a glance down at what we were referring to that we would talk about on today, and one of it's like subjects we'd like to cover in tutorials. I know we spoke about cities and the maybe subjects actually as people in there, but another one that I remembered that I wanted to cover was landscapes from around the world. So I know sometimes I can heavily lean towards maybe a more American sort of what's it referred to, a national park kind of aesthetic sometimes, but I think there's loads of other places that I want to explore, whether it's like desert style scenes, and not just the stereotypical of a pyramid or something like that, desert style scenes, and with maybe a rundown shack on the side of a road kind of thing, that kind of vibe, where exploring different sort of different parts of the world in content. And I think that would be something I lean towards a little bit more in the year, because by the time this is out, the tutorial's already out, but my North Pole adventure map tutorial, that's the second adventure map tutorial I've done, and I want to expand on the adventure maps a little bit more in 25 and do more of them, but related to places in the world. So that's somewhere that I will take the content in terms of my adventure maps, but then also maybe some landscapes that go alongside them, whether it's like maybe not back to back, but in a month it would be, okay, we're visiting this particular part of the world, here's an adventure map style and here's a landscape of it, but in between have a breakup of that. But I think I can see how my channel might go next year this year, because this is out this year. I'm breaking the fourth wall there, or the magic of it anyway. I can see the content being that a lot like towards the end of 2024, of if I'm enjoying that style, it might linger for a week or two, and maybe even 3, and just say I'm enjoying it, whether or not it's easier because it's to a degree already kind of been sorted out. I don't think we actually allow ourselves to enjoy it for long enough. I think that's where I kind of want to lean to that and be like, I enjoy that style, and maybe I'll pre-record it and then release it like a couple of weeks later or something like that. But at least making sure that that you'll probably see a lot of similarity on the channel, I reckon. Like, not similarity, it's hard to explain, isn't it? It's not, it's like using like palettes maybe, or even subject matter or a theme to a degree, whatever it may be, and not letting go of it straight away and just moving on to the next thing kind of thing.
We've discussed that's what you do as an artist, isn't it? I tend to do a series of, like, if looking at fire as an inspiration, I won't just do one fire painting. I'll do a series of 5, and really get it out of my system, and then I may do another 5, but or I might move on to another theme, But it won't just be one thing in isolation typically, because if you've enjoyed it and it's gone well, you kind of want to follow it. It opens things in your imagination that you could do more with it, doesn't it? It doesn't tend to close off, doesn't it? Once you've had a success, you've enjoyed something, you do tend to want to do more in that vein, don't you? So
yeah, definitely. So that's awesome. It's I think it's nice to be able to at least try and set a path. I think for the year, at least try and set some sort of mini goals. I mean, like, we're not going to go ahead and change our channels dramatically and start, reviewing cars out of nowhere. No. But, at least saying, like, how can we do something new? Because to keep it fresh, 52 weeks of the year we're releasing content. How can you do something different? And just at least try and explore a few things and see where they go as well. And it, who knows what it will open up doors wise for the Sketchwave, our own channels, and so on. James, thank you as always for an awesome conversation. We'll probably revisit this, I reckon, at the end of 25 and see if any of the things we did and maybe see if we actually cracked on with them, or whether or not we just put them back to bed and we carried on with what we normally do week in, week out, which is make unbelievable Procreate tutorials. And you should subscribe to our channels. They're linked in the description down below, but you should also subscribe to the Sketchwave. We record these shows every single week, and you can actually get early access to the Sketchwave by becoming a member of the channel. It's no longer the price it was before. We've dropped it down to the absolute bare minimum that it can be. It's just 99p, which is 99 cents roughly for our US audience. Your help and support towards the show helps tremendously. It helps us with covering a few of the things that we have here for the show, but you also get a loyalty badge beside your name that grows over time the longer you are a supporter. But you also get early access to the shows, typically around about 6 to 5 days in advance. So if you want to help the show and support the show, you can become a member. But otherwise, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you again for another episode of the Sketchwave next week. I wonder if it does something to your mentor in the background of just being like, let's tackle this now. We've acknowledged it, and now do we try and tackle it and
that's it.
See where it goes. Because I'd love to see you do a city landscape. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't like to completely. Yeah, excuse my bag in the microphone there. Are we leaving that one in? I think that's a no.
Oh, fucking hell.
That's a blooper. That can't stay in. That has to be edited out.
Oh my god, that was funny. I tried to keep it together.
Oh dear. God. We're losing it.
Oh, that's great. It's the surprise on your face. You just got me. Oh. Oh god, I knew that was coming.
Oh, we've got to make myself look normal again now. My eyes are all red now.
Oh. Okay, I don't even know where we were anymore.
I've rubbed my eyes. I look all fucking weird now. Oh dear.
Because I'd love to see you tackle a city landscape, and then I'll chop it straight in.
Yeah, okay. I'm not ready yet.
I was going to do exactly the same thing. I realised we had to get serious then for a second. Oh, Jesus. Come on, we can do this. We're professionals.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're not. Right. Come on, Joel. Sort your shit out.
Got this.
Oh no, come on. Come on, stop fucking about.
I guess just not look at your face. I'm going to look off camera.
I just looked down. I was like, why is he not looking forward? and taking so long. I can't do it.
Oh dear. Okay. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's fine.
I'm not. I'm fine. Right, I'll wipe my face and it'll go again.
Yeah.